You want to know what I did today?
Hey, Nate. How are you doing today? What'd you do today?
I fell today.
You fell. Like
Mhm.
I've fallen and I can't get up kind of fall?
Actually,
Or like
exactly like that, yeah.
or like trip and fall and you kind of just like go
So 15
ooh, and
minutes
make like a really funny noise to where everybody
15
around you would
minutes
definitely have laughed?
15 minutes
You
before
fell for
we
15
started this.
minutes, bro? Dude, that's a long fall, dude.
I'm pretty sure I'd be fucking dead.
Ooh, no, it's just a slow fall from like, when you see those people like
What's a
slipping on
slow
ice,
fall?
like when you see people like slipping on ice and like oh,
Yeah, that's
and
actually
they
happening
finally like
in
fall.
real speed. It's just the perception of time is different because of slow motion.
What are you talking about?
If you see someone slip and fall and they go like, no, like
No.
that's still happening at full speed.
I'm sorry, my eyes have a filter of slow mo where I can just switch it on. So
Yes, exactly.
no, I'm talking like when someone's like on ice and they like kind of slip and then they like catch themselves, but they're like still kind of slipping, like
Well, see, that's not a fall.
No, that's a slick.
That's a
That's a crisp
stumble.
fall, dude. No, that's a fall. If
When they
you're like
actually start falling, that's the fall part.
if you never get back on your feet solid, I consider that a long fall. Long falls are funny, and that's good. I like it.
It wasn't a long fall. It was actually a very short fall.
I want to know why and how.
So 15 minutes before we started this recording right now, I was out in my front yard and there was a big old tree branch that was still like, big old boy that had been mostly knocked off by, you know, like the storm recently, but it was still being hung on by like the last little bit.
Yeah, I'm also
And
curious
so,
as to why you text me saying, "Oh, hold on, I'm gonna be 10 minutes late. Got to pick up some sticks."
yeah,
Do you remember
that's it.
real quick? Do you remember the game Pickup Sticks, dude?
Is that
Or
a
it
real
wasn't.
game?
What's up?
I thought that was just a way people tricked kids into doing work.
No, like, did you ever play that game where there's a bunch of different sticks on the ground and they're like different colors or something, and like each color was like more points?
What
Do you not
are
know
you
what I'm
talking
talking?
about?
I gotta look this up. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Go to Google and type in Pickup Sticks. It's a game. Let's see. You jumble a bunch of random colored sticks into a pile, and you have to take turns trying to remove a stick from the pile without disturbing any of the others.
Oh, so it's like shitty Jenga.
Yeah, but you have like a long black stick that you use to like get the other sticks out. But if any of the other sticks move, then it's the other person's turn.
Well, they're gonna move.
No.
Bit.
You never played Pickup Sticks, brother.
Are they set up in a very specific way, or are they just dropped?
You like jumble them and just kind of throw them on the ground.
That's a bad game.
I can't believe I forgot this game even existed. I wonder how long this game has been around to where you had to entertain children by just getting sticks and throwing them on the ground and pick those up without moving them. And those poor kids are probably sitting there for hours so confused.
Okay, so back to
you
my
were
story.
playing Pickup Sticks.
Yeah, I was playing Pickup Stick, and there was a really big stick up in a tree. And so, you're trying to pull it down, but like it's still connected, so like pulling is not working.
Why
so I
are
was
you
like,
why are you grabbing a stick from out of a tree? I'm confused.
yeah, because it was like hanging down, right? Like it's mostly broken. It's this giant branch. It's gonna fall, so I might as well just go and get it. Kind of a deal. Okay. So I'm pulling on this branch, and I'm trying to get out of this tree, and it's like not going. And I was like, well, I'm a little hefty boy. Let me just jump up and like pull it down with my body weight. Well, that worked. But I was like kind of, like when you're like pulling yourself up to something and you kind of like do like a little curl, like into a ball kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Like not quite into a ball, but like you lift your legs up above your shoulders kind of a thing.
When you're doing what when you curl into a ball, when you jump.
You're like, okay, so picture a tree branch. I'm trying to get it down.
That. Boom,
so I'm
done.
grabbing with both hands.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling my body weight up so that my entire body weight is pulling the branch down. But I'm kind of pulling my legs up while I'm doing it.
Yes.
So now my back is parallel with the ground. And so I'm not very high up. I'm only like, 4 feet up or something like that. But I just go for a big old, it just immediately comes right down. And I just slam right down on my spine. And And that was when I realized I never really in my life, I guess this is like some some sheltered boy stuff, but I've never really had the wind knocked out of me.
Really?
Because I just did, and I hated that.
Yeah, you feel like you're dying.
I was like, I literally could not inhale at all, and I was like, oh my god, this is it. What a terrible way to go.
I'm sitting here on my computer waiting to do the podcast. 2 hours later, oh, Nate's dead.
He's kind of rude. He's this late and not responding to my phone call.
Yeah, dude, that is one of the most terrifying experiences when you're laying there on the ground, just.
Yeah, I know, and I sounded like such an idiot. I was going. I was like, God, like half of my brain power was like, God, you sound so dumb. Can you stop?
It's like, I feel like you always have, when weird things go on in your life, I feel like when one emotion happens, you have to throw in another emotion and get in, like, they
balancing
combine. No, I'm just talking you in general.
Oh, me specifically.
For you, example, that story that you told, I think you told it on the podcast. When we saw that scary movie, and on the way home you saw a deer demon, and you were like yawning, and then you got scared, and you got double scared of yourself. That double emotion was the same emotion. This one was I'm dying, and then I sound stupid.
But also,
so
like,
all I'm imagining is
pressure.
You're going trying to breathe, and then all of a sudden you're like, I sound like an idiot, and then try to laugh while you can't breathe. It's like and then you start freaking out more because like you're expelling more air and still can't breathe.
I did start to kind of like laugh at myself for it because I did feel ridiculous, which did make it harder to breathe again. But it was kind of like a it's just, oh man, what a dumb thing. That's how I felt. I was just like, oh, that was stupid because I pull myself up into this tree branch and I'm like, God, I hope this works. But also, I have no plan if it does. I'm just gonna immediately fall on my ass.
You had no plan if it worked, and you had no plan if it didn't work. I don't understand your logic.
Yep.
What a good day. What a good way to start your day, dude.
I think I'm like, I know I'm about to hit 24. And I know that now, like,
you're old?
You know, when you're a kid, I guess if I were like, and I wasn't, but if I were a kid who played like football in high school or whatever, like I'm sure this would have happened all the time, and I would have been able to like brush it off, and I would have been good. But now this is gonna define the next week and a half of my life.
Your back's gonna hurt, or
yeah. It's just gonna hurt. It's just gonna, like, I'm not gonna be able to sit like how I normally sit, and like all of my daily activities are gonna be like, hey, you fell on your back a week ago.
Dude, you're making yourself sound a lot older than 24, dude.
I just feel like that happens. Like, you know, like, when was the last time you like hurt yourself and now it's just, ugh.
Dude,
you know?
All the time. Do you know what I do?
Exactly.
And people always say, "Oh, well, you're young." I hate when people say, "Oh, you're young." Dude, don't degrade my pain because I'm young. It's like I've been doing this stuff for 10 years, and it takes a toll on your body. I don't understand, man. People. Now, that's not, of course, I'm going to recover faster than somebody who's 60 years old doing the stuff that I'm doing. If you were 60 years old and you fell on your back, dude, dead. That would have been the end, dude. You're out of breath for 3 seconds. It's gone. You're a goner.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm so sorry.
Well,
I'm so sorry. If there's any if there's any people, of that age listening, I believe in you, and
don't
you
hold
guys
your
can
breath.
do anything you want.
Don't do it.
While you were falling to your death, I was eating a bagel.
Wow.
That's not true. I ate a bagel earlier after I got up at like 1:00. I thought I got my sleep schedule back on track, but then when you go to bed at 5:00 in the morning,
yep,
it'd be rough sometimes, dude.
Yeah, that's just been the past month and a half, basically. I mean, there's been ebbs and flows. Sometimes I'll go to bed early, and I'll be like, did so good today, and then I'll stay up for like the next 18 hours.
It's so good, I deserve to stay up tomorrow night. That's not how that works.
It is still weird, though, because I do feel like, even though days of the week are meaningless now, I still kind of feel like, ooh, Friday night.
You do? Because I don't.
Yeah.
None of that means anything to me.
I'm the boys are gonna be online. It's the weekend.
No, I'm still far past that, dude. I'm way far past that. Give me another week though, and then I'm gonna have to be worrying about what the day of the week is. So there's that.
Oh yeah, because Ty's got to go back to work.
Yep, and we'll see if after we get out of quarantine, if in 2 weeks we're gonna get put right back on. I'm ready for it. But that actually jumps us into our first topic, though, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Yep, talking about Corona, of course, like we do every week. Got to mention it, right?
I don't know. I think we've done pretty good about not like using it.
Can we just talk about Corona this whole episode then?
Yeah.
Right,
we've been good.
All right, so let's slowly move over into the movie scene. Tom Hanks has Corona. Everybody, I'm sure, heard about that.
Is he doing a movie about his experience?
Tom Hanks' blood is being used to develop the COVID-19 vaccine. And the first thing I think of is that that means everyone's going to have a little bit of Tom Cruise inside of them. I don't know why I said Cruise. I'm sorry. I just wish it was Tom Cruise. I want a bit of Tom Cruise in me. No, everyone's going to. I feel like, the first thing I think of is that's exactly how a vaccine works, right? Is we're going to have Tom Hanks' blood flowing through our veins if we get the vaccine. That's going to work. It's exactly how that's going to work, dude. It's exactly how it's going to work. How else are we going to get them antibodies, brother? Tom Hanks.
I don't think actually you get anyone's blood injected in you for a vaccine.
You don't know how vaccines work.
True.
Which leads me
they're a little bit of disease to fight big disease.
Which is a little new segment I like to call, if you could have any celebrity's blood flowing through your veins, who would it be? I think I subconsciously said mine. I think Tom Cruise, he's that man. How old is Tom Cruise? Isn't he like
he's 58?
Jeebus. And he's doing Mission Impossibles and hanging out at airplanes and ridiculous stuff like that. I think if I need anybody's blood, it's his.
Tom Hanks is sitting on, like, underneath his house, his giant Hollywood mansion. I don't know if he actually lives there. Is a small pool of, infant blood that he bathes into.
What are you talking about?
His youth. He's a Scientologist. He's like King Scientologist.
I don't think Scientology people kill babies.
I think they do. Hot take.
But they do.
Scientology is actually a really bad, like, weird big cult. Have you ever seen that? That woman's been doing a documentary on it. The woman from King of Queens, which I know you didn't watch the show.
Nope.
I cannot remember.
But I've heard lots of weird things about Scientology.
But yeah, I mean, like, all of Tom Cruise's like ex-wives have like had to fight super hard to get out of it and like have kids access to their own children and stuff like that. And no one even knows what Scientology is about. Actually, that's not true. I'm sure it's actually readily available. I just feel like it's more mysterious than it is.
You like to keep it that way, huh?
Yeah, man. It's a weird thing, though. It's super weird, and it has nothing to do with science. So I'm not sure why it's called that.
I think you're dodging the question.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Give me a celebrity. Who do you want to be able to walk around and say, you know what? Got a little bit of them inside me, dude. I am part Tom Cruise.
This is a weird question.
I love it. We got to get started hot. The option isn't, I'd rather just not. Nah, you got to pick somebody.
You did that for my question last week.
What was your question last week? I'll answer right now. I'm ready. Come on, give it to me.
What were you saying if you were at your favorite band's concert and they asked you, get up here and sing a song?
Ooh, probably Happy Birthday. Because
God, that's awful.
It's the worst decision ever. The only reason I say that is because you put me on the spot, and I'd probably be just as put on the spot, when I'm there and would not know what to do and just instinctively start singing a super easy song, and I'd probably get 2 words in and then just like run away.
Happy Birthday isn't actually a super easy song to sing.
What?
So like it's in this really weird, I guess, key. I don't know, but that's why everyone sings it so low. Is because to sing it like kind of high or in some kind of weird middle range would be like impossible. That's why everyone's like, "Happy birthday to you," because it sounds terrible. If you got up in front of a bunch of people and started singing that, oh my god, You couldn't go back into that crowd.
It probably wouldn't be that. Honestly, to be honest with you right now, brother, it'd probably be a Michael Bublé song because I've been feeling some Michael Bubble recently. I've been listening to a lot of Michael Bubble.
I'm just kidding. Doesn't he basically just sing like Frank Sinatra songs?
No, he has his own stuff. He doesn't just do like covers.
I figured he was just all like, I'm doing the Frank Sinatra thing. That's me.
I mean, he's got a similar voice. Like he's got that Susie. He's got a Susie voice.
Susie voice.
Jazz voice. All right, so I need your answer now, brother.
I'll say, why was I about to say Tom Hanks? That's the whole thing. God, I don't know. Idris Elba. So that way I was a little bit black.
We're moving on now. Actually, I guess I didn't technically give you a song. I still only gave you an artist.
Yeah. Can do the worst. Can we just move on in general?
We'll just go with a bad bit. We'll just go on with the classic, Feeling Good. But I don't even think that's not even a Michael Bublé original, but whatever.
Wow.
All right, let's get into actual movie stuff.
I feel like this week is just, especially for me, because I watched two things that none of you out there should watch. Which the main thing, you can probably tell by the title, which I don't know will be it, is Goop.
It's gonna be Goopy. That's not the title.
Secondly, I also watched the super trending thing on Netflix, because apparently that's all I do now is I just watch whatever's trending on Netflix. Too Hot to Handle, the reality TV show about terrible people.
Can you give me a synopsis of what it's about? Because I kind of need to know.
10 people in their young 20s. I'm pretty sure most of those people are younger than us, which hurts. Are invited to some resort that's just for them for like a month. I don't even know where the resort is. It's somewhere beachy, like it could be California, it could be Jamaica, who cares? And they all kind of show up and stuff like they don't know why they're there. And basically the idea is after the first day, they find out that they're all collected there. It's a bunch of like hot, sexy people, like 5 dudes, 5 girls. And, they've all been especially chosen because they all like to have sex all the time. That's their big thing. That's their only personality traits as a whole. So they've all been lumped together. And then for the next month, they are not allowed to have sex with each other. That's the whole show. And if they can make it without doing anything like any like real kind of physical intimacy, kissing, sex, any kind of heavy petting, whatever, then they get $100,000. That's it.
What is reality TV like stoop to, bro?
I think it's always kind of been like this. This is just the most honest of it, right? Because I mean, like, there's always been those shows like, oh gosh, I mean, even stuff like The Bachelor and like all these kind of reality, they're all kind of the same concept, right? You get a bunch of people together that are pretty, and you're like, okay, interact, like couple off, do your thing. Like, I don't fucking care. It's all...
Yeah, there's always going to be drama, especially that kind of drama, but at least have a separate point. Even if you're going to have the drama, try to cover up a little bit, but there's like, no, this is what it's about. So just go for it or don't. I don't know.
Here's the thing. I want to give the people in this show the benefit of the doubt because in some ways, especially in some interactions, it seems super fake. And so I don't think that's actually who these people are. I'm really hoping. I think like to an extent, right? Like these people are probably all like, I think they're all for the most part traditionally good looking. There's some of them that are like, I think are the weak links.
Wink links.
I'm kind of like, how'd you get on the show? What's it? For the most part, all good. But so they're probably to an extent like they're all very like social media influencer type, like purely vain, always taking pictures, that kind of thing. So I can believe that this is to an extent part their how they actually act as far as like all they ever, because on the show all they ever talk about, the only thing is like either wanting to have sex with other people or being upset that they can't, and that's it. Those two things. And it's kind of weird because the concept of the show, and I've only seen 2 episodes because I can't, because they're like an hour long. I can't sit through 6 or 8 or however many of those. But the idea of the show is that they're actually doing this so that they hopefully form better relationships. You know what I
And they
mean?
have
So
to
it's
be
like the
forced
idea
to
is that
do
they
this.
couple off and then they don't have sex with each other for a month, and then so they're actually formed to have like
Wow,
they're actually
actually get
forced
to
to
know the
date.
person you wanna be with? Crazy,
Yeah,
dude.
I know.
Crazy.
So I mean, in a way, it's almost kind of like, is this show coming from like a kind of a good, like positive place? But then at the end of the day, it's also just like always trying to show you ass and titties for no reason. You know what I mean? So it's I don't know. It's bad. But the part that's like funny and weird to me is that like they have all these fake interactions where I know there's producers telling the people like, hey, you got to go and try to like, flirt and like hook up with this person, especially because like the first day they're on I'll just call it the island, is they don't know that they can't have sex with each other, so they're all just meeting for the first time. So I mean,
Oh, wait, okay. I feel
yeah,
like that's how you know that the show has a good chance of being fake. How do you sign up for a show? I mean, I guess you can just say, "Well,
and get
whatever
all the
goes,
way in
you're
there
going
and
on an
start getting
island."
filmed and you have no idea what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean,
And no one asked that question. No one's going around. So what are we doing here? Like
oh,
they're all just chilling.
yeah, like in the contract, does it say, "Oh, you're just gonna come live on an island. We're just gonna film you, and there's gonna be a catch we can't tell you," or is it just a complete lie? It's like, "Oh, you're gonna
Well,
be
it's not
doing
like
this."
they'd sign a contract saying you can't have sex because they can. They just won't get money.
Right, but I'm saying the contract of what the thing's going to be about. You know what I'm saying? Like there's going to be a catch, but you can't know till you get there. It's like I'm
Yeah, I
not
don't
going
know.
to sign
Maybe
up
they
for
signed
that.
something that was misleading, but yeah, it's most likely like all that's most likely fake. They for sure probably knew everything going into it.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because they'll have like a girl sitting on like a like a beach lounge chair, and they'll have like a dude come up to her and like try to like start flirting. But it's so awkward how it's done because it's like for like one of the interactions was like dude sat in the chair next to her, and then he was like, come sit in my lap. And so she's like, hey, okay. And then she does it. And then they just sit awkwardly like that for like 5 minutes. And then he goes, all right, get up. And then he leaves. And that's it. It was just a show like, ooh, he's getting in there. Oh, but that other guy liked him. But it's like, that doesn't happen. No one comes around and has you sitting in lap for 5 minutes and then fucks off. Like, that's so weird and dumb.
All right, so I'm definitely not watching that show.
Although, honestly, I mean, God, I'm trying to figure out which one's worse, that one or Goop. I think Goop's actually worse.
I would disagree, but I haven't seen the other show. I haven't seen what you're talking about, but I would.
Yeah, but I mean,
Because
so
at least
the
in
problem
Goop,
with
there's like, regardless of like how crazy some of that stuff is, at least it has a bunch of weirdly interesting, possibly interesting topics that it's like you might think this is weird, but like you learn a little bit about something new, even if that new thing is absurd. You know what I'm saying?
the thing is, I think Goop is like kind of, it's misleading for sure. Like especially with its science that it talks about. Because I mean, okay, just to preface,
Well,
Goop,
before we get to Goop, I want to mention some other stuff. I know that
okay.
we're in still the time of quarantine, so we keep saying there's not a lot of news, but there are a couple things. Directors are still talking. There's still a few things going on here and there.
Sure.
Because I know the Goop we're going to talk about for a hot minute. So a little detour first.
Sure.
I ran across this thing saying that the Godzilla movies, and obviously King Kong or Kong Skull Island, I guess you would call it, and how they're planning on having them like together in a movie or whatever, Godzilla vs. Kong. Well, the Godzilla director apparently wants to make a Godzilla movie that's set in the ancient world and possibly not have any humans, like almost like a prequel, and like before possibly like before humans existed. It says ancient world of man and monster, or even have no humans.
Interesting.
And I wanted to bring
it's
that
kind
up
of
because
funny.
we have talked about a little bit about Godzilla, and I know
Especially
you
King
are
of
interested.
Monsters, which is the most recent one that came out, which I think everyone kind of agreed that movie was bad, but mostly because the people were at such a forefront, and no one gave a shit about any of them. Right? Yeah. So I mean, that's like the big problem. So now you're talking about doing a Godzilla / King Kong movie with no people in it. It's like,
Well, I'm really talking about like it's not the Godzilla and King Kong one we were talking about. It's like a prequel, like a Godzilla movie before, like a Godzilla BC kind of thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, same thing. I mean, like, I'm sure Godzilla and King Kong. I think it's kind of implied they're like, or maybe not King Kong, but like Godzilla maybe is like really old, so like maybe he's been
Mhm.
around for thousands of years.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that is implied.
yeah.
Um,
So I mean, I don't know about King Kong. I think King Kong is not in the same thing, but
so I'm wondering if I would like that or not though, because what I really liked about the first Godzilla, the first as in as of the newer ones,
the
I
2014 Godzilla, yeah,
right, because I didn't like the most recent one. I mean, there was some cool stuff. It was monsters
no,
fighting
no,
witches,
no, no,
always kind of cool to an extent, but it was not written
it was
very
bad,
well. Um, and the people weren't written very well, obviously, because the
terribly.
monsters don't talk. So I guess get rid of the people and it's better. No, but the original or the first one, the 2014, it was kind of cool to see it on like to be able to see Godzilla ground level in the eyes of these humans. The way they portrayed him with the cinematography and this almost mystery at first, and then obviously he comes in, you see more of him and all this other stuff. See, I really like the way they did that.
Yeah.
Um, and that really helped with that human perspective. So I don't know how interesting it would be just to see a bunch of monsters crash around with no talking. Like I don't understand how it would work. Like I don't. Can you give me a good synopsis? Can you think of a good synopsis, like plot of a movie that has basically no humans, so no speaking and just those monsters?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what the biggest thing for that, I mean, because it can definitely be done. I mean, there's movies with people in it where there's either just like one guy in it, so there's no real dialogue, like something like like Castaway or something like that, or there's I'm sure there's movies out there that have. I'm trying to think of a movie that has no people in it.
That's the thing. It's even
That's a
people
little
like
bit.
we can relate to people even when they're not talking because there's this, survival instinct and we can relate to the actions that they take and the things they do physically.
Yeah.
What are these monsters going to do physically? Like, especially if they're giant things, like we can see us interacting in a house or on an island and in trees and all this. But a giant monster, like, what can they do? They can eat things and crash through stuff and
Yep.
go home to their baby little Godzilla boys and girls and feed them. I don't know.
Yeah, it
I'm
is
not
tough.
sure.
You can't really get anything complex out of that. I mean, because you just can't portray. I mean, if it was just King Kong, then I think you can do more because apes and humans are obviously kind of closely related, and they can do a lot of the like. Even if you watch, like the 2005 King Kong, Peter Jackson's one. I mean, like the stuff that Kong actually does as far as like facial features and like kind of advanced thinking and stuff like that are pretty good, and you can really sympathize with him a lot. And I mean, it's not that it's hard to sympathize with animals, like like a movie about dogs. Like, obviously, that'll work, but totally non-anthropomorphized creatures like Godzilla and stuff like that. That would be tough. I really don't know what you would do, especially since um I feel like a lot of reasons why Godzilla movies have human characters is because it'd be really expensive to do 90 minutes to 2 hours of like pure CG the whole time, like your whole like having Godzilla on the screen for the entire movie basically because he's the main character doing all the stuff would be crazy expensive and take so long and stuff like that, opposed to just being able to film a couple guys in a room like constantly reacting and doing all dumb human shit. You know what I mean?
Right. But yeah,
So yeah,
apparently
it's sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. Apparently, they said, "I'd love to finally see." Oh, as for how Ghidorah ended up trapped in the ice, I'd like to think he lost a battle with Godzilla, got KO'd in freezing waters. I'd still like to see it to do a Godzilla BC where we finally see the ancient world of man and monster, like a modern day Ray Harryhausen, whatever flick, or maybe we just go for it and finally take humans out of the equation. So I guess this article is based off of that tweet. But that's what we do. We overanalyze things during, because it leads to interesting
Yeah.
conversations. Because I don't know how they could do something without humans at all.
I
Now,
doubt that they ever actually do it. I think it's
I don't
just
think so either.
speculation. Yeah.
It would be like it'd be like I want to see. I'm down for it if it's like a nature documentary. So we have a voiceover of like, I don't
David
know,
Attenborough.
yeah, someone. Or let's get like Snoop Dogg in there.
Okay, yeah.
Make it a comedy of Godzilla.
Yeah, pure comedy at that point. Yeah, even that though. I mean, that's fun for 10-minute clip, but 2 hours? Yikes! I don't know. Yeah,
and the last thing that I've started trying to watch, that's not any like Goop or anything like that. I want to get on board with the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah,
and so I want to start watching that. But I know that obviously it takes place after the second, episode 2. What's up?
Sorry, you cut out there for a second. What'd you say?
Oh, I was saying that I know that it takes place after episode 2. Like that's where it starts. The Clone Wars. Because obviously in that movie is when the clones come about and it kicks off the Clone Wars, since it's called the Clone Wars. So I was gonna watch episode 2, and then start watching the series.
Right.
So I started watching episode 2.
Yeah,
it's so bad, dude. I just want to touch on it a little bit because I'm just reminding myself of it, and I have to verbalize it a little bit. I'm only 30 minutes in, and I just want to start watching the show, dude. I'm like, is this really necessary? Because you told me to watch episode 2 first, and I'm trying.
No, well, technically, no. I told you to watch the Clone Wars animated movie that came out in 2008.
I didn't know that existed.
It's in the same animation style as the show, but it came out first, and then because of that movie, they made the rest of the TV show. Now, that movie's not very good either. Sorry to burst your bubble.
So I'll probably try to watch episode 2, then the movie. Man, there's so much more I got to do here. And it's not that I don't like Star Wars, but episode 2 is not good.
Yeah,
and it was interesting because I want to go back and watch like prequels just to see if they're not as good as as everybody says and we remember, because it's been a minute. But can I just, I just don't like Anakin, bro. He's so creepy. He is so creepy. Like there's a line where she's like, "Don't look at me.
You've grown too. More beautiful, I mean, for a senator."
Well, that's not even the worst one, but just the way he portrays that line is also kind of weird. But when she was like, "Don't look at me like that," and he's like, "Why, m'lady?" And she's like,
"M'lady."
It makes me feel uncomfortable or something like that. And she turns and walks away, and he's like, "Sorry, m'lady," and like does this really creepy smile, like terrifying. Like,
it's almost
I'm gonna
like
keep looking at you like that. I'm like, dude, stop it right now. It gives off real bad vibes, dude.
Somehow in that movie, they were trying to do like, I feel like George Lucas was trying to do like Shakespearean, like Romeo and Juliet type of, forbidden love, like, dynamic, pretty classic tropey stuff. But somehow he wrote that, and then what ended up happening was basically something much closer to like a 50 Shades of Grey relationship, where it's like this creepy guy on this girl, and she's somewhat intrigued by it. It's this weird hybrid that is very odd for the children's series Star Wars.
Yeah, I just there were multiple points, and again, I'm only 30 minutes in, and there were multiple points where I was like, bro, you got to stop. You can't be talking to somebody like that and then smiling at them like that. You can't do that.
Oh yeah, Attack of the Clones I think is still my. Oh my gosh, the sequels though. You know what I found funny was that you know how in right before Phantom Menace came out, I think that George Lucas went back, especially to A New Hope. I think he altered some of the other OT movies as well. And he like added all these extra things and like changed the whole like Han shot first thing and all that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like how he went back and did that, but A Phantom Menace and Clone Wars came out in 1999 and 2002, I think, respectively. And he has not made a single alteration to either of those movies. He's just like, nope, they're great. Perfect.
But so you like that he added stuff?
No, I think it's funny that that he didn't.
No, you're saying you like that he added stuff to the original trilogy.
Oh no, I don't like that. Yeah, that stuff's all garbage.
Well,
I just think it's funny if you look at his mind, right? The way he views it, he's like, A New Hope was incomplete at the time. I meant or wasn't what I wanted because I couldn't do CGI and all this kind of stuff. So let me add all these extra bits. But then he can look back at like a Phantom Menace. I mean, I don't think he could change it now, obviously, because Disney owns it. But there was still a long period of time before Disney owned Star Wars where he could have gone back and added stuff or fixed things that he didn't like. And at no point was, or that you can tell at least, he was like, no, those are great. I'm just gonna keep them exactly how they are.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough, and I don't know how long it's gonna take me because that's a couple days. Like I watched a couple minutes here and a couple minutes there. It's a couple days, and I'm only 30 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate thing about Clone Wars, because there's some cool stuff that they do. It's in the show. And there's some cool like background lore things and like all this different stuff, but then there is just a wealth of terrible kid driven like episodes that are about like, you know, droids or Jar Jar Binks doing something stupid, or there's just a bunch of crap in here as well. And it's a real bog to get through all 7 seasons. But the last 5 episodes of the 7th season, man, that's gonna be it'll all be worth it.
I hope so. You better hope so.
Yeah, I don't know if I can actually say that or not, but because I think the last 3 episodes haven't even come out. It's only been the first 2 of that last 5, where it actually bridges the gap between, like, they show the beginning of Revenge of the Sith in those 3 episodes from a different perspective. So, yeah, that's the cool part.
Yeah, we'll see if I get there.
Yeah, it's like I tried to watch Rebels, which is the show that basically goes in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and God, that one feels even worse than Clone Wars as far as like being aimed at for kids. Like all the characters in that, I just God, terrible.
Yeah. All right, I got nothing more to say about that. Let's Goop.
All right, I'll just break down Goop for a second, just for people who don't know. Show on Netflix called The Goop Lab with Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow in real life has a company called Goop, which is a lifestyle and wellness company, I guess you could say. It's basically just like she's basically just a snake oil salesman in real life. She's like those, you know, she's basically like an anti-vaxxer who sells essential oils. That's pretty much it. It's just a bunch of crap that has, you know, pseudoscience that has no bearing in reality.
Well, let's give an overall review of what the show is before you go making your
I'm giving
opinions
context
out there.
for the show.
That is a very strict opinion on your part. I'm not saying I do or disagree, but just be like, oh, she's a snake oil salesman.
Well, no, if you actually look at like the stuff that she sells on there, I mean, she sells like, you know, clothes and crap like that too. But a lot of it's like, you know, just bullshit, like eat this and you'll be happier, or, you know, some dumb shit. But she also sells a lot of weird shit as well, like a candle that smells like her vagina. That's one of her biggest hits.
Is that real?
Oh yeah,
I heard a lot about that.
Thing. Yeah.
Why? Like why? Why?
Yeah, that's the thing about the show is that it's now the show is called the Goop Lab, and it's basically where they kind of go behind the scenes in the company, and they don't really talk about selling their products all that much and like what their product lines are, but they like take the staff and they make them do kind of weird shit to help them explore mostly their bodies, I guess. It's God.
And to be fair, I'm not a hey, that's you're right. What I'm saying is I'm not trying to attack you for saying that, because if you're going to sell a candle that there's no point. There's just no point. Like, why are you doing that? I don't understand. So yeah, the show kind of just shows her company. Like, and the weird thing is, most of these episodes, maybe like half of the episodes, she does the stuff that her employees are doing, but the other ones she doesn't. So she'll just send them to do the weird stuff, and I'm sure she's busy or whatever. So she does sit down and do the interviews, at least with the quote unquote professionals of whatever this new study is.
That is a huge professionals.
Well, professional in their own right. Regardless of whether you agree with the technique or not, they are professional in that specific, whether technique or niche, whether you believe in it or even think it's real. They are professional even in making people think that it's real.
disagree with the idea that you can be a professional psychic. You know what I mean? That's insane to me that you can. I mean that exists, right? Because I can just if I make something up right now and say I'm a professional at it, I'm a professional mind reader. I'm gonna read your mind. I just can't tell you what you're thinking. I know it, but I can't tell you. Boom, I'm a professional. Wow, I'm the only one in the world who can do it. Actually, you see what I'm saying? It's like this is the kind of shit that they do on the show, and it's so dumb. It's based on nothing, and there's a pretty famous guy on YouTube, JonTron, who did a whole.
And quickly, what I mean by professional is like somebody who's dedicating a majority of their time, and sure, this might not be the quote unquote definition of professional, but when I said that term, I mean somebody who's taking a majority of their time and dedicating their life towards this thing, whether it's to con people with or whatever. It's with that specific technique or that specific whatever it is. That's all I meant.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying like you use the bad terminology. I'm just saying that like like in the second episode, it's all about like this guy can basically just, or at least thinks he can, if he wills himself to not be cold, he cannot be cold. Or if he wills himself to not be sick.
That one, I want to talk to you in depth about Wim Hof for good reason.
Wim Hof, but yikes.
I'm trying to think of how I want to kind of categorize this. Here's the way I'm thinking of doing this. There's 6 episodes, and I wrote down what each one is about. I kind of want to go through each of them and discuss them, and also kind of go like agree or disagree. And I'm sure by the sound of it, you're going to disagree with 90%, if not all of them. So as far as like the ideals that these people are pushing and why, and just go a little bit. You good with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And it doesn't necessarily have to be agree or disagree because some of these aren't so straightforward as far as that goes. But okay, so the first one talks about mushrooms. Now,
magic mushrooms.
I am like drugs. And just to be clear, we are not advocating people to go out there and do drugs.
Drugs.
So with what they said, basically there was someone that came in and said that, or multiple people that came in saying like these mushrooms basically have the ability to heal people, I guess, almost mentally, and make them process through things emotionally, and can help you recover from traumas and depression and anxiety if it's done in the right way, which is interesting.
So this is actually, I think the first episode is one I'm probably the most okay with, because there actually has been some science behind using psilocybin, which is basically the core psychoactive ingredient in magic mushrooms, from what I understand, and for certain types of therapy, but really what I think it is that I think there's just one of the active ingredients in or one of the effects of taking psilocybin is that, especially depending on dosages, that it's just a euphoric feeling. I'm not speaking from experience. This is from from what I've looked up. And so it's basically like if you're depressed and you take a drug that makes you happy, oh my gosh, I'm happy now. I mean, not for forever, but it's that's kind of like where I think it begins and ends there. It's not really like I'm not sure if I buy all the stuff they do in this show, especially to the extremes or whatever. But at least there is some science behind it. Not a lot, because it's a Schedule 1 drug, so it's really hard to actually test with it. But
and to be fair, there's a lot of science too. And like for example, I'm not saying it's the same thing, but like you drink alcohol and you get drunk and you feel happy, and like depending on how you react to it, that when you have these kind of drugs that like can give you an escape, there's a difference of healing and there's a difference of an escape. If there's this escape where you feel this goodness and all this stuff, and then you come off of it and then you're just right back to where you were, and then you have to keep taking it to continue to feel that way, especially if you can like there's plenty of stories of people like hallucinating, and then like because if you're not in like a controlled environment, when you're taking something that like can make you first of all, that terrifies the crap out of me. I don't want to do that in any aspect where I feel like I don't have any control over myself, or something that might cause me to hallucinate or anything like that. And then especially if it brings you to the point where you can hallucinate and then like think you're somewhere you're not, and then like jump off a building or something crazy like that. Like I'm not about it.
I think that's a bit of an extreme, especially when you're talking about something like this. I don't think you'll find that a lot of people have ever had that kind of experience. I mean, maybe, I know that obviously there's different dosages that can do different things, and maybe if you just took a crazy amount, then you'd have that kind of reaction. But I mean, it's not, I don't think it's really that powerful, but honestly, I don't know. So I mean, I guess so. But and I certainly don't think that's what they're necessarily advocating for. But basically, all this first episode is really about is that they just a group of volunteers from the Goop lab go down to Jamaica where they can, I guess, legally take psilocybin, and then they just kind of they get high on it and they try to open up about their traumas. And that's about it. I mean, some of them find that it works, but it's probably, I don't know. I don't think it's any kind of miracle drug. I think it's just you get high and then you open up about yourself, and it feels nice to just talk about something if something hurts you, if you're holding something back, kind of a thing.
But I do
That's
think
probably about it.
I mean, I do think it's a lot more intense than something like, something anything else you can get high on, like weed or something like that. But this obviously we're I'm sitting here talking from a perspective of I do no drugs. So
yeah.
But something that to me it's a lot scarier when you can like hallucinate things and all that. But regardless, I really want to jump into the second episode because
the first one is, it's basically just people get high on mushrooms. It's not like a super interesting.
Yeah,
sure, it was fun for them, to an extent. Actually, the one guy was like really not having fun with it, but the second guy. What's your
is my favorite episode because I actually saw a documentary, a Yes Theory documentary. If you guys know who Yes Theory is, it's a YouTube channel.
YouTuber guys, yeah.
And they go out and they do a lot of different things, but they went out and actually met with Wim Hof, and they went to, I think, Poland or wherever he was, and they trained with him. Basically, this second episode is about Wim Hof, who is known as the Iceman, and helps basically through cold exposure and breathing techniques prove that your mind is capable of a lot more than you think it is, and having control over your body. And there is medical studies done that what he is doing actually works, and he has trained people to do it. And you also, I took cold showers for a year, didn't take a single hot shower for a year, and there's a lot of like benefits and to it, for like physically and mentally and all that kind of stuff. And I want to hear what you have to say about it, and then I'll give some more of my views.
So I think that for the most part, there are probably some obvious health benefits, just like there are with taking cold showers, is to kind of exposing yourself to colds and that kind of stuff. Like there's been some stuff around that for sure. I think that his like achievements of being like, of being able to swim in super cold water the longest, or the most, or whatever, that's just him having done it for forever, right? He's a Dutch guy. He's been around ice cold water. He just does it all the time. It's not like I don't think it has anything to do, and he definitely like over exaggerates the benefits of it. I mean, I'm looking on here, and he's basically saying that you can basically treat stuff like Parkinson's disease with cold water and breathing exercises, which just isn't true. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous.
Why not?
Because that's just not how things work. You're talking about treating Parkinson's disease by getting in cold water. I mean, okay, fair enough. I'm not a doctor. I in fact, when it comes to a lot of medical stuff, that's probably where a lot of my knowledge lacks and all that kind of stuff. But it's insane to think that this disease we can't cure at all with modern medicine can be, at least in any way affected by something as dumb and obvious. And if it was, why would it not be a more prevalent thing? I mean, I'm literally looking on here on
That's
his
why. Because people
Wikipedia,
think
and
I'm not saying it doesn't sound insane, but that's why. It's because people think that it's insane. Here's where I kind of said with this.
Well, hold on. I just want to address this, that there have been a lot of much smarter people than I about these things that have heavily critiqued these methods. And his methods have actually gotten a few people killed. Four people tried the Wim Hof method in 2015, 2016 and died. And apparently people believe that the breathing exercises he has people do was why. So I mean, I am very hesitant.
Was he there with them when it happened? Like, was he teaching them, or did they just decide to take it upon themselves?
I don't know. I would have to look more into it.
So when you're doing any sort of new stuff like this, especially techniques like this, like, of course there are always going to be some sort of risks involved like that. Like, yes, he specifically says gradual cold exposure. So he has said, and there's another documentary, like I said, that's, I think it's about the same length. Again, Yes Theory documentary. Go check that out if you're interested. But he does basically say that it can be dangerous with people that do not have a good cardiovascular system, and it can cause shock, and that's why the gradual cold exposure and all that stuff, and to be smart about it. But I do like the idea that your mind, because I do believe that your mind is capable of a lot more than people actually think that it is. And there's specific, like, scientific research done to prove that what he's done has helped cure certain things. Like, him and some of his students were injected with E. coli, and they recovered from it, didn't show any symptoms, whereas people that were not any of his students or taught that method did not.
Yeah, I mean, well, it could be something as simple as like something like E. coli is particularly susceptible to cold and lower body temperatures. So, I mean, if you that could maybe in some weird way be a legitimate treatment for something specifically like E. coli, where, you know, if you can develop a way to keep your core body temperature low enough, the virus might die, or something along those lines. But at the same time, that could also be really dangerous for people to doing, because obviously sitting anywhere cold, especially like trying to hike mountains,
they didn't go into cold. They were literally in a room and did breathing techniques. But anyways, my point being, yeah, there's dangers with all that. I don't want to go get injected with E. coli. I'm good with that. But I think that there is a way to be able to kind of tap into, like, your own bodily your own bodily, like, systems in ways that people just don't know, because we haven't really thought to try that. Because I'm sure that, like, the way that we intake, whether that's oxygen or the way that we eat, all this stuff that we do to our body affects our body. And if we can learn how to actually, like, control that to a certain extent, it affects your body differently. And yeah, I don't know. I think that one's interesting. And if you want more information on, I would definitely recommend going to watch the Yes Theory documentary on it.
Yeah, I'm incredibly skeptical of any of these kind of. I mean, there's probably some backing to the whole mind over matter type thing. I mean, that's why things like placebos, work in certain situations. And
yeah,
because if you truly can believe something, then often there's a benefit to that. But there's a limit. I mean,
yeah, well, it's like, and that, I think that depends on the person too. Like, everyone has a fight or flight symptom. Or fight or flight. I keep saying the word symptom. I don't mean to. Anyways, everybody has this fight or flight. And if you are able to jump into that panic mode of flight and get your body to produce that adrenaline to just kind of get out of there, that's the flight. But if you can suppress that, learn to suppress that and hold that back, sometimes that could be dangerous. But in some other instances, being able to hold that back and make conscious decisions and do certain things can be good. And that's all a mind over matter thing, is training yourself to be able to do that. And that's just a simple, version that, again, I don't know a ton about, but
Yeah.
Oh, but you were talking about placebo. I was listening to another podcast where they were talking about the effects of placebo, and there was some lady who took a pill that didn't do anything. It was basically a sugar pill, and she was having like complications with a bunch of stuff physically, and nothing she tried made her feel better. And then she tried this placebo pill, and then after she even found out it was a placebo pill, she stopped taking it, and her body had issues, and then she'd continue to take it, and it wouldn't. And I'm like, what? Like her brain was tricked into taking it to the point where she would just feel better after taking it because her body would be like, nope, this helps.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird outside thing, and I feel out of my depth here because I mean this really isn't our forte is this kind of stuff. So I mean it's interesting to look at. I'll give it that. But that's probably the full extent.
This is a very
I think this guy is
episode of That's Movies, brother.
Yeah, which we are not qualified to do. But I still think this guy's kind of mostly a hack, and he just does this kind of stuff.
And I don't. Go find out for yourself, guys. The next
third
one.
episode. Wow, this one was something, huh?
Yeah, this was an episode.
I did not like this episode.
I didn't like it either.
You want to break this one down? I want you to break this one down.
Do you? It's completely about basically training women how to sexually pleasure themselves. That's it.
Yep.
Cool. Next episode.
You feel qualified to talk about this one?
What?
So do you feel qualified to talk about this episode, Tyler?
No. I mean, if you don't know how to do that and you want to, then go watch the episode. I don't know. What am I supposed to say? Like,
this episode was quite shocking, and I found myself, I scrubbed through most of it.
Oh yeah, I didn't look at the screen for 90% of this episode. I was just like listening, and there were times when I was listening and I go, no, stop, just to drown out sounds I was hearing. Why was this filmed? Why was this put on TV? Next episode.
Yeah, really. I mean, there are full on bad shots that I really was not expecting and didn't want to expect. Honestly, I think that would have been a very big impact. Basically, this whole episode, like Tyler said, is about that, but also it's from the perspective of there's this older woman who kind of like has been leading this, I guess, workshop class. I don't know how you'd really describe it, for like, I don't know, 50 something odd years almost, or in that range. And it's all about that thing. I can't talk about this.
Yeah, can we move on?
Yeah, it just feels, I don't know. I mean, that's it.
That leads to another interesting thing as far as technical side of actual like shows, getting more into the actual like how things are made or produced or whatever.
Yeah.
Putting something like this on TV, I mean, obviously, as long as you have disclaimers and stuff, but is this show even quote unquote rated? Like, is this something you think should be okay?
I remember seeing that this episode had a TVMA and nudity and stuff like that. Just this specific episode, and I was like, "Whoa, it's got all that." Like, I mean, they're gonna what's happening in this one?
Just out of curiosity, do you think that something like this should be able to be put on something like Netflix, where there's a lot of just eyes that ones might be like okay to watch it, and some that like you shouldn't be watching this? One, you're too young.
When you say should, are you talking about like the legality of it?
I don't really know, and I'm not even saying that I don't think it should, because I guess especially if it's for educational purposes, which is trying to be educational purposes, I would say.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I was comparing it the whole time. I was like, what if I taught a class teaching dudes how to jerk off? I don't think anyone would care. That wouldn't be a very good class, and people would have called me an idiot. So it's not exactly the same thing.
It's definitely not exactly the same thing. But again, I'm not a woman, so I don't have the right to say how any of that. All right, I want to move on.
Yeah. To answer your question though, as far as like this definitely should be allowed to. I mean, this isn't even on actual like cable television, which is a bunch more regulated. This is on an online, subscription service, obviously. So it's it's a totally different field, and there is much, much, much worse things.
Yeah,
online.
I just it's very good that and necessary. I think that we get some warning.
Yeah. I think I don't know if they actually did, because I always skip the intro. But yeah, it's a weird area. But this episode isn't even like, there's nothing pornographic about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's
But episode 4.
Episode 4 is literally just about being young and youthful, eating healthy, and exercising. That's really
What
it.
do you think about this biological age test that they do?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I don't really know what you mean. What do I think about it? I mean, cool, I guess.
Because they're basically saying that, like, that you can have this like separate biological age test thing. It's a weird thing I'd never heard of.
Well, I think it's cool because I think that as long as it's done right, you're measuring. I have to see kind of what exactly they're measuring. They go in a little bit into detail about how they get the biological age compared to your actual age, and I'm sure that the way that they get that is they measure a bunch of people, I would assume, and then get the average of each age, or roughly each age, and see how you're like how healthy you are on the inside, and then compare that to how old you actually are. I think that's doable. I don't think there's anything.
You're basically just counting your rings like the inside of a tree.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but that actually means how old the tree actually is, because every year it gets a new ring. So this is, obviously like how healthy
so they're
are
not
you? Like,
doing that actually.
yeah, if you eat a bunch of junk food and you don't exercise, your cardiovascular health is probably, and you're like 20 years old, your cardiovascular health might be that of a 30-year-old, or maybe not quite that, but you know what I'm saying. And so measuring that is kind of an interesting way to figure out, kind of where you're at. I think it's cool. I'd be down to get one just to see.
All the people they tested, I think there was like 3 or 4 of them, Gwyneth Paltrow being one of them. They were all like within like 1 or 2 years of their actual age.
Yeah, it was
like there was no, it didn't like, I was like, oh, okay, I'm a year younger biologically than I am in actual age. Go me, I guess. It's not really a big deal. It's not like any of them turned out to be like, I'm 35, but really I'm 24 on the inside because I've been vegan for my entire life or something like that. I don't know.
And then they did their, like, they each did a different diet and a different, what's the word I'm looking for? External.
Oh, no.
Wellness thing. They had an internal wellness and like an external wellness, like exercise. The internal was obviously they each kind of did a different diet, which was supposed to be healthier than what they normally do, and they each did a different like external thing. Like one did acupuncture, one put these weird strings in her face.
Oh yeah. And that was weird.
And then somebody did this, and then Gwyneth Paltrow did this like blood thing, which I've actually heard a lot about, and apparently it actually is. I mean, it is newer, but I've actually heard a lot of good things about, I think it's PRP. I think my mom actually had it done, but not the same way that she did. It wasn't like a facial thing. It was like you get your blood taken out, it's like spun and creates all this stuff in it, and then it gets like re-injected in you. And it's supposed to speed up healing process. And I think my mom had it done on her knee or something, and it worked like crazy well. So apparently that one actually has some science to it. I mean, I'm sure they all have some science to it, but this whole episode just seemed, for the most part, kind of empty, because all it really to me was just like, eat well, exercise, and try to see what is best fit for you apart from exercising and eating well that's going to make you feel better. It's like a cool, I guess. We knew that. So, I mean, if you're interested in seeing that, cool, I guess watch that episode. But besides that, it just seemed kind of empty.
There's nothing crazy going on here. This next episode, 5, I'll be honest with you. This is all completely bullshit. This is
yeah, this episode was somebody, exorcisms were happening.
Yeah, so these 2 guys are called practitioners.
Well, the one guy is an actual like energy body worker. The other guy's like a chiropractor with other stuff, and he was trying to teach him basically how to do it.
Apostolos Lekos is his real life name.
What?
apostolos lekos.
Okay.
So yeah, basically they believe that people give off a undescribed energy. Don't know what that means. And that unidentified energy can be manipulated to, I guess do stuff. What are they even trying to do with this? Like basically you're on a massage table, there's a man moving his hands in and around your body but never actually touching it, and people are freaking out, and it just looks ridiculous.
They're basically saying that energy is stored in your body in different areas, and if you have a tight area or a hurt area, that energy can be stored in that area, and he can help manipulate the energy to almost kind of disperse or whatever and relieve areas, as well as it can get deeper to where they said that emotions can get stored into your cells. So
Nope.
and that there are so they're basically emotions can get stored in your cells, as well as old like traumas and stuff like that, and memories. And by manipulating this energy, it resurfaces things and like purges your body of these things and helps basically like level out your energy to where you feel better. That's because I wrote about like a bunch of notes to because I knew that we were gonna have to like talk about this, and it's just weird. Yeah, so that's what they're doing. If you must ask.
Yeah. So that's it.
They were talking about
these...
crossing dimensions.
Yeah. And he said something really crazy that like stuck with me in the beginning. He was like, the universe is only 4.5% matter. The rest is energy. And I was like, I guess I don't really know what even that means. Like, are you comparing like your body's like energy, quote unquote, aura to like, light and like heat and like all that kind of like those kind of like real energies? You know what I mean? Like it's just a load of crap. And this is what pissed me off about this show, is that it's this company that's basically just, it's like one big ad for this company, even though they're not actually advertising their specific products. They're just, it's kind of like a brand awareness kind of marketing, and they're just pushing it in your face, and it's all pretty much bullshit. I mean, I'm looking at all the things that right now that like on Wikipedia that Goop, the company, has gotten in trouble for, and it's always Goop tries to sell a thing that'll tell you that it'll make some aspect of your life better. Doctors who specify in that aspect of your body say it's a load of crap, and then they pay out some money because they're like, sorry, we sold people things that don't do anything. That's it. That's why it's a snake oil salesman thing to me.
I have a little bit of a different view. I'm not like completely like, oh, like on the other side, but I appreciate. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to word this because a lot of this stuff is super just out there and weird. I don't think that maybe they should be a company that sells products. Let's put it that way. If they want to be a company, if they want to be a wellness like journalism company to where they write about their experiences and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, that's basically just a pure editorial, right? It's just all opinions. Yeah.
So, and they can be opinions in maybe a little bit of fact here and there based on some things and some of their experiences and research they've done. But selling things is a different story. To just try, and again, I haven't like looked into this company very in depth as far as like what do they do before they decide to take on a product and sell it or endorse something. How much do they actually research into it? Because I do appreciate open-mindedness in people. To just be like, oh, that's stupid. I don't like when people just go, that's dumb, and they don't even try to think about the other side. I think that you should always kind of question everything. I think that if you either believe in something or think something works the way that it does, like if you question it and you still believe the same thing, then cool, then you can kind of settle on that. But I think life gets really boring when you just accept things because people kind of tell you to accept them. So there's an interesting, I appreciate that at least that aspect of it. But I also think that everything obviously that they're doing in this show is just every episode they are kind of fully on. A lot of them are fully on board with all of it. And does that make sense? Like just being
It's the power of
open-minded.
suggestion. More,
Right.
that's all it is, right? Like, and I mean, this is that'll definitely be true when we talk about the last episode with all the psychic and medium
Yeah.
stuff.
And
But
yeah.
if you're looking for something, like if you're desperate for some kind of change in your like emotional or physical state, and somebody convincing comes along and tells you they can do it, then you were so looking forward to it that you can convince yourself that something's changed, that you are now happier because this man waved his arms around you, or or anything like that. And it's just bullshit at the end of the day.
Well, but again, like I said, like I if there is something new and interesting, and I don't immediately just want to be like, that's dumb. You know what I mean? Like, but
At some
having an
point you
open
have
mind.
to, though, right? Where there's no bearing in reality of what's going on. At what point do you is can I say anything to you, or could anyone say anything to you and you go, well, okay, maybe let's try it out? Like, is there no line where you draw in the sand where it goes, no? That's just like if I said, like people have said, that the world and the universe was made by a floating turtle that's the size of the sun. And he just goes around and just drops shit off places, and that's how everything was made. Would you not just immediately dismiss that, or would you go, well, I guess I got to think about that and like really look at the aspect?
Well,
You see what I'm
even
saying?
just for the fun of it, if you just go, okay, well, if that were the case, and then you think about all the evidence that has been portrayed for the world being like round, being a globe, and then how it would probably differ if it was on the back of a turtle, I could probably sit here for a second and go, yeah, I don't believe that, based on knowledge, certain knowledge that I have. I can question it for a total of 2 seconds in my mind and go, I don't believe that. So I get that there's lines, and there are lines that there are things that you can be more open-minded to, and that like level of open-mindedness gets like smaller and smaller depending on what it is. But I think that most people nowadays they're not open-minded about enough stuff. And I think you can agree with that. I don't think you're a super close-minded about everything guy, right?
No, yeah, you're right. I'm not. It's just, I know that I usually tend, when it comes to this kind of stuff where I don't know a lot about it personally, whenever it comes to, health, medicine, science, that kind of stuff, it's not my thing. I don't focus on it. I've never really looked too much into it. Then I just defer. I basically just defer my opinions to people who have actually spent their whole lives learning it, and not just um, especially not just people I see as just trying to make money off of it.
Right. Well, that's again, that's why I'm saying this show is a little different. I'm just saying I appreciate open-mindedness, and there's some aspect of it that's like, all right, but then at the end of this thing, they hop fully on board with each of these topics, it seems, and
Yep.
I'm not fully on board with each of these topics. You know what I mean? It's like it just seems like
Yeah.
they're like, yep, 100%, let's go for that one, and maybe they're not,
I'm
but
I'm especially critical of every, like, I guess, guest you could say that they have on each of these episodes,
yeah,
because they are all selling something, every
right,
single one of them.
right,
So it's
and
right
like
there.
yeah, and like you
There's an
said,
automatic incentive to lie or exaggerate, or
right.
um
And you were
your
saying that
whatever
you
you're doing.
defer to people that do spend their lives on this thing, and I get that, and there's a lot of research behind that, and that is a pretty logical standpoint to go on, for sure. I do also believe that people, if something new gets discovered, for a while, people get ridiculed when something new comes about until it gets either accepted or proven, and then that becomes the new, scientific law or the new normal. And for a while, people get ridiculed for it. So there are some things that, if it can maybe make sense, like to be a little bit open minded about it, cool, do a little bit of research. If you still don't believe it, that's fine. But if there's stuff I don't know about, like if I'm not well versed in something, I have a hard time just being like, absolutely not.
So I get what you're saying, because there have been many historical examples of people making discoveries, especially scientific ones, that were not accepted at the time. I mean, you can look at like Copernicus for his model of like how Earth and the other planets revolve around the sun, and we're not the center of the universe, and shit with Galileo, and even the whole like flat Earth thing, way back. But most of the time, that's basically what's ended up happening is you have someone scientific
But
going at it.
They're not considered scientific at the start. They're considered crazy people. That's what they are.
Not first of all, these are outliers when they come to. The problem is that most of the time when they come with most of these like debunked scientific theories are really hard to just observatively see as true. Like it's very hard, especially in an age where being scientific wasn't nearly as praised and things were much more uh, theological, right? Like that was a big problem with like Galileo and Copernicus, was that they were up against the church, which kind of controlled thought at the time, and they didn't want anybody questioning that. Not being anti-church here by any means, but just saying at the time that was an issue that they ran into. But when you compare those kind of things to like, I mean, when the guy came up with the combustion engine, no one was saying witchcraft, you're lying, it's fake, like, or many of the technological things or advances or things that we've discovered about the world, they don't always come into question. They don't always get debunked until or thrown out until later. Those are kind of the outliers of things. You know what I mean?
Right. No, well, I don't know if it's completely the outlier, but it depends. Like, for example, when the automobile was being made, people were like, "What are you doing? I'm not gonna drive that machine around. I got horses and stuff." And now everyone has them.
Well, that's a bit of a different comparison because
Well, not really. I'm
what
sure
they
that
were
there
really
could be.
talking about is like, is that worth having? They weren't saying that doesn't work. You can't
No,
have
that's
an
not what I mean.
automobile.
That's what I'm saying. The harder things are the stuff you can't really prove right away physically. Like, for example, the Earth being round. That takes a lot of research. You can't just look at it and go, "Oh, that's not true," or "That is true." You see what I'm saying? Like, there's more research. I mean, now being able to go to space, that's different. But
Yeah, I
there's
mean
a lot of stuff
it's
behind it.
actually not super complicated to know that the Earth is round. There's
But it
there's
was
tests that you
back
can
then.
do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, even
Yeah,
back then
yeah.
you could do certain things, but
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like everything evolves, like mathematics, science, all this stuff evolves. So like we obviously don't know everything right now, and it would be ignorant to say that we do. And I know you don't think that we do, obviously.
sure, yes,
So there's always room for improvement, and there's always new stuff. All I'm saying is again, almost separate from this show because I'm not saying that I'm like, oh, I agree with everything they're doing. I'm just saying that there's always room to be open minded, and I think that there's people that aren't, that's all. But a lot of this show is interesting.
yeah.
We didn't talk about, I was going to go into all that after we talk about last episode, but we just somehow just ended up jumping into it. But the last episode is about psychics
And mediums, yeah.
So do you think they just staged all these?
When you say stage them, I mean, what was there really to stage? I think they had the people go, but
so like the people that were having emotional reactions when the main psychic lady was like
again,
reading.
this goes straight into the power of suggestion. Like especially with that first woman that she talked to like on a one-on-one, and they ended up talking about like her mom and like all that kind of stuff. Like that's first of all, that's a very common thing for people to go through, is that like something happens to a parent and it makes them emotional and they want to have, and they feel like they didn't get like the proper closure. And so all the psychic did was say a bunch of very generic things, and the power of suggestion took her of the individual who was being, who was looking for the connection through the medium, wanted that badly enough that she would just go along with it and just understand. She never said anything super specific about that gave her any insight that said like, oh my gosh, you really know what you're doing. She said like, I'm getting like an L on my screen, first of all, which is fucking weird. And like EL, an L sound, is that anything to you? Like what? And she goes, yeah, my mom's was named Lana, or something like that.
Well,
I
she
was like,
said
okay,
specifically
great.
on her mom's side before she even
On her mom's side. So it could have been her mother, or it could have been a sister that she had, a grandmother. It could have been anything. It's just it's so dumb. Like these people have been doing it long enough. They know how to, pick up on cues of people's, like body languages and stuff, like which they talk about. Like, I think they call them cold readings, where they basically just try to pick up on what, they're getting at by being there. And they just have the people talk themselves into it, basically.
What about the last one where she was like trying to read the other girl, and then it ended up being like the camera lady or whatever? You know what I'm talking about? And like everything that she said was very specific to the camera lady's like life or the passing of her grandfather or whatever, with the donkey and all that
so
other
she
weird
was trying
stuff.
to read someone else, and she accidentally guessed the camera lady's real
Did you not
life.
watch? You didn't watch the whole episode, dude.
Yeah, I skimmed through a lot of it. All right.
Yeah, so basically at the end, like she was trying to read. Do you remember the girl that was very skeptical about the whole psychic stuff?
Yeah, that was in the group session. Yeah.
And then so she did a one-on-one with her, and she was like trying to read her, and she was getting nothing. And the girl was like, I'm not getting, like, she's literally not getting anything. And then they, like, in the middle of that, like they pan over to like either the audio person who's like holding the boom mic, or a camera person or someone like that, someone who was on the crew, and she's like crying, and she's like, literally everything you're saying is applying to me. And she's like, oh yeah, that can happen sometimes if you're in the room with other people. You could be getting a message from somebody else, and they really want to give the message to that person, so they're trying hard to like push it through to you.
Do you remember what she was saying that was getting it? Was it like anything with any kind of specific nature to it?
There was. I mean it. Like she was like, I know this sounds really weird. Is there anything like with a donkey or like a trip to Mexico? And she was saying something about on her father's side and all this stuff. And then the lady said that her father, or she was like on her father's side, maybe a grandfather or something like that. Then later the lady was like, yeah, my grandfather just passed away, and I'm getting married in Mexico like in a month. And my dad was joking about we should have a photo booth with a donkey in it, and my grandfather would laugh about it because it sounded so ridiculous. So that was like the main thing.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly weird, but
that's what I was asking. Like, if you were thinking, like, it was, if you think it was like staged, because like,
yeah,
especially
that could
because
easily have been staged. I would imagine that the people going on this show are definitely don't want to disprove themselves.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
They might have had to make some kind of deal.
The girl that really didn't believe in it was trying to get read, and then maybe they staged. Again, I'm just saying, if this was staged or whatever, then maybe they staged the other person to kind of butt in to make the psychic or whatever look better.
Yeah.
So it didn't just like tear her down.
There's just nothing to this kind of stuff. I mean, it's the same thing as like horoscopes and tarot cards and all that other, and palm readings and all that other bullshit. It's just like an old tradition, basically, that like people that was, have been able to do and get away with, because people are, they go through stuff and they're desperate for closure usually.
That whole I do like that they showed that girl who was like, I'm not getting any of this. And they also showed one of the guys in the one where the energy body reader guy or whatever, one of the guys was like, yeah, I'm a skeptic and I like to back things up with science and all this stuff. And then they never really cut back to him. Like, they didn't show or really explain like how he was affected by it, or if he was affected by it. And also, going back to that one, the only person that really moved a lot was the dancer. And she seemed like she was really like, I don't know, her energy.
Yeah, it was definitely only the women that.
Well, no, not even the women. I'm just saying her energy, as far as like, she was very like ecstatic and kind of like a very happy, like peppy person, and she just seemed like somebody who would perform like that. And again, I'm just saying based off of what I saw, but
yeah.
And again, if you guys like want to go watch this thing, like, go for it, get your own opinions, but like, I'm not sold on a lot of these things. And some of them were like, to watch, it was to hear people's viewpoint on it. To hear people's viewpoint on things are interesting to an extent, regardless of whether you believe them or not, and you can think that they're crazy or not. But that doesn't mean I'm just going to be like, oh yeah, I 100% am on board and believe you there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's probably the best way to really look at it, is that if you just feel, if you're just interested in how people can like convince themselves of things, or get away with cons like this kind of stuff. I mean, it's almost kind of like a more macabre kind of interest. It's like, to the lesser extent of like why we like stuff like true crime shows and things like that. It's like, I want to know what's going inside these people's heads because they're just so different and out and eccentric from me, or from a person, somebody who considers themselves just be of, the average mentality of just, they believe, generally the science behind things opposed to the pseudoscience and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not really even sure. Looking back on it now, I thought this was gonna like the Goop thing was gonna be much more of a like it was gonna be really goofy and dumb, and we would be able to like meme on it a lot more. But really, at the end of the day, it just felt like I watched the visual form of reading like 6 issues of Cosmopolitan or something like that. I was just thinking to myself, why are we watching this? Like this doesn't.
Yeah, this was a very very trying to be intellectual episode.
Yeah, I guess sort of. Yeah.
But it's weird, and I guess go buy Goop candles.
Yeah, go buy Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina candle.
Oh no, don't do that. I'm ready.
The back screen for this like the cover art, I guess you'd say, for this show is like Gwyneth Paltrow, or one of them at least. It's like Gwyneth Paltrow like standing in like what looks like a vagina, basically. Like she's basically like floating in it. It's so weird. I don't know what her deal is, why she's such a crazy person in real life.
What's the purpose of that?
I don't know. I if I was standing, if I had a show and I was standing in front of a big like, I was just standing in front of a big dick, what would that say about me? I feel like people wouldn't be as open to it as they are with Gwyneth Paltrow and standing inside of a vagina, but whatever.
To each his own,
That new Netflix movie Extraction with Chris Hemsworth, I think, came out yesterday.
And we have to watch it. We have to talk about it. I'm done with these documentary stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Can we get back to?
Can you call this even a documentary?
That's what it is.
I guess so. Yeah, definitely done with that. Gonna jump way more into movies. Gonna be doing Two Towers first Thursday. That'll be out.
Yep. Join us.
Yep.
Join us on Thursday for our second episode of the week. We're continuing with Lord of the Rings, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah,
that was a little bit of a low-key episode there, but that was it. Don't watch Goop. We watched it, so you didn't have to.
No, I would say if you are interested in just hearing about a bunch of...
Yeah, that's my opinion. Don't watch Goop. That's me.
So
don't watch it.
If you're interested in hearing about a bunch of kind of out there stuff, I don't even know what to call it. I was going to say wellness stuff, but sure, we'll go with that. Watch it. If you're intrigued by stuff and anything that we talked about sounds interesting or strange enough to where like I gotta watch it, then go for it. I was going to say I wouldn't watch it again, but who would watch a documentary twice?
I feel like there's probably people who watch Tiger King more than once.
Yeah. But yeah. So thank you guys for listening. Go and like our page, our Instagram at That's Movies Brother. Follow me at Tyler C. Gillette on Instagram, and go follow Nate outside his house, hide up in his tree, try not to fall out of it, and because he did today.
Oh God, it still hurts.
I bet it does. Alrighty. Bye.
All right, great. 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 All right, great.